All right, my series is September is significant. So making sure I don't have any outstanding delays. And we are going, all right, there we go. All right, so welcome to my series is how to playing in my series is September over here. Okay. All right, everyone, welcome to September is Significant. This is episode two or part two, I should say. You can go watch the full version over on my YouTube channel. If you're on Instagram, I suggest you go back and watch the welcome video where we talked about statistical significance and then part one, because the rest of this is going to follow if you follow part one. Now, don't log off. You can stay here if you're watching live. So just a small recap. Episode one was talking about setting up your vision. And I said that the issue with a lot of people going through anything self-help, personal development, is because they don't have a vision in their mind to filter through all of the things that they're going to learn. In our professional careers, many of us know that we know the end result, we know the big vision. And so when we go to these training sessions or conferences or wherever, workshops, we already work through that filter because it's already set up that way. But in our personal lives or even in our business lives, it's not set up that way. So you have to have your vision. So today we're going to talk about separating your list, how to quit like a pro. So if you see me looking back and forth, I'm looking at both platforms. All right. So there are a few things that I want to talk about before we do that. You have to have your vision in mind, your big vision in your mind. And I am talking about that scary dream goal, that overall vision in your mind. When you do that, then you'll start filtering through what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about the difference between an amateur and a pro. And that's why I said know how to separate your list. There are things that you may be doing like an amateur and things that you may be doing like a pro. But guess what? None of that makes sense if you don't identify where you're being if you don't have an idea. So let me say this, for example, just put this out there in sports because we know amateur and pro, we know that analogy. So if you like to play tennis, then you know how an amateur tennis player shows up and you know how a professional tennis player shows up. If you have a goal, if you are a tennis player and you have a goal of going to the Olympics, then you know how to I separate what your activities between what amateurs do and what pros do. So you see how that makes sense, because the overall vision is I'm a tennis player, I want to go to the Olympics. Now I can identify my traits, goals, my habits, traits, characteristics, or anything like that, qualities, attributes. If I'm showing up like an amateur and I'm showing up or like a pro, then I can either self-correct or I go to my coach, and in some cases, maybe an outside consultant, to say, hey, help me on these issues here. So that is why it's important for you to have a bigger vision in your mind. So let's talk about some definitions, because I feel that a lot of people throw out these terms, right? Can everybody hear me? I hope so. I feel like a lot of people throw out these terms. They'll say, "Oh, show up like a pro," or and I say quit like a pro. Like quitting is not a bad thing, but it's like, what does that really mean? So we're going to talk about some practical things. So one definition of an amateur is doing something for pleasure. There's nothing wrong with that. There are some things that you may love to do that you just stay an amateur at. You don't have to be a pro in any of that, but you have to be honest with yourself which one is which. So if you're an amateur, you're doing it for pleasure and not for money. Here's something that I didn't really say this, but I was acting like this. Like, well, if I could just not, if I'm not worried about money, if I could just, people say if you could just do it for free, what would you do? That's the thing to do. And it sounds good on the surface, but I think a lot of us, while we're stuck, because we bought into that lie. It's like, well, I don't want to focus on money, because if I focus on money doing it, then that's not really, that's not what I'm here to do. But if you're going to show up, well, we'll get into that. So it's okay to do things not for money, but you be honest with yourself, but then don't get upset and complain when you don't have the income that you desire, or you're not getting paid at the level you desire. Because remember, you said that you want to show up. Hi, my LMS. You wanted to show up like an amateur. You're just doing it for pleasure. The other thing, as a hobby, you can do things as a hobby, but you have to be honest with yourself. Amateurs focus on do things as like a hobby. Like if you like to garden, That is great. That is a great hobby. You don't have to do it for money. You could just love all the plants in your yard. But then if someone asks you to come to their house and they say, "Oh, I just loved your garden arrangements. Can you help me do mine?" And then you do all this work and then you feel some type of way because they didn't pay you. Whoa, whoa, slow your roll because you're an amateur. You didn't want money. You're just doing it for a hobby. So you have to go. That's why I say it's important for you to have your vision in mind so you'll know when you're going to show up like an amateur or pro. Just go very quick. You're not skilled in a certain area or you lack the skills in a certain area. It is cool. Sometimes I like to cook. I am by no way an pro. I'm probably not even an amateur. It's like a little hobby. I don't know all the culinary thing. I don't care to know. It's a hobby, it's a pastime. But if I'm talking about I want to have a Michelin star restaurant like Gordon Ramsay, then there are some skills and things that I need to have. So just be honest with yourself. The other, now let's talk about a professional. So when we say pro, that means a professional. A lot of us are showing up in our dreams and goals and our visions like amateurs, and then we want professional results. But if you're not showing up like a pro or professional, then maybe you don't understand what the definition is. And this is not to assault your intelligence. This is just to call you higher because and look, like I said in my first video, I don't do anything or say anything out loud that I have not sat down and done to myself or I've had people say to me. So to be a pro or professional, you have to be competent and skillful at your activity. So there are a lot of people like come into the coaching industry. First of all, coaching is a tool. It's not technically a profession. It's something that you do for people, but whatever. Then it's like you're still showing up like an amateur as a coach. There are skills and things that you need to learn to be an effective coach. You can't just go take a certification or some classes or just your life experiences and say that you're going to coach somebody because you could just be an amateur at that. You can ask questions, but there are some things that you need to do to hone in that skill set. That's the same thing with the writer. That's the same thing with a blogger, whatever you want to insert in there, any profession, anything in business, there are things that you have to focus on skills. It's not just because I'm passionate at it or somebody said I would be good at it. That's a start, but where are you honing in those skills and up leveling those skills? Those are professionals. And then it's a paid occupation. That is the thing. That's what set professionals apart. It is a paid occupation. So even in entrepreneurship, if you're going that route, you can be an amateur entrepreneur and think that you just want to work for yourself and help all the people. Okay, cool. And then you say, well, I don't care about money, then you're an amateur because professionals get paid no matter what the dollar amount is. There are little kids out here who are still babysitting and they're getting $15, $20 an hour to babysit. They are professionals. So they have more sense than a lot of us to treat their what they're doing, their skill, and getting paid for an occupation. Another thing for a professional is, like I said, has particular knowledge and skills necessary to perform the specific role. Whatever role you're going to, if it's an entrepreneur, you need to define what type of entrepreneur you want to be. If you are a career professional and you are moving up that ladder, then you need to have the bigger vision and then you need to learn the skills necessary for those particular roles. Everything we do in life has an amateur side and a pro side, and we are talking about how to separate that list. We're talking about September is significant, and that's why I said go watch the first video where I talked about your statistical significance. There's only 5% of what you need to change in order to be in order for the significant. There's a 5% that's the probability value of things that you need to change in order for you to have quantum leaps. The quantum leaps are not in your activities. That the quantum leaps comes in your results, but you only need to do small things, concentrated things consistently to get the results that you desire. Today we're talking about separating your list from amateur to pro. All right, so there are some things that are different when you show up as an amateur versus a pro. The difference is that I'm not going to go into this because I want these to be very quick in the morning. But one is an attitude. There's a difference between an amateur, how they show up in their attitude, and a professional in their attitude. You have to be honest with yourself. So let's put all this together. When I told you to think about your bigger vision and the one that you've been hiding, the one that you've been afraid to say, that's where you need to filter all of this through. So whatever your bigger vision is, I'm going to use the example of Gordon Ramsay and a Waffle House line cook. No disrespect. I love Gordon Ramsay's style of food and I love a good Waffle House. So you just depend on where you want to be. How are you going to show up? If you want a Michelin star restaurant, can you show up like the Waffle House line cook? Do you have the same attitude as the Waffle House line cook? Absolutely not. And I talk about Gordon Ramsay because I like his shows. Because he's like at the top of his game. That is a professional chef. Then in your focus, do you think that a Waffle House line cook has the same focus as Gordon Ramsay, or any other Michelin star restaurateur. I think that's how you say it. The focus is different. How you show up. If you watch any of Gordon Ramsay's shows, his level of focus and attention to detail about the quality of food or how you serve food. Like there's one thing that he does, they don't use the same utensil when they're tasting food. And he goes through so many silverware, spoons, because he's like, once you taste, you throw it out. And I don't know what the Waffle House line cooks do back there, but if you've been to a Waffle House, you know what I'm talking about. I don't think they're doing that, right? But it's a level of focus and a level of detail. Preparation. Gordon Ramsay, if you watch anything and how he just go watch some of the shows and just go listen to how he started to get to where he was, where he spent hours just peeling potatoes, or he spent hours learning how to, I think it was like debone if you ever watched him fillet a salmon, a king salmon, if you actually watched him, the level of preparation it took him to do that versus someone who's just like cutting up fish for the Friday uh, uh, cookout, fish fry, right? So the level of preparation is different when you want to show up as an amateur or pro. So think about your vision, your big vision of where you see yourself. What is your attitude? What is your focus? How are you preparing at that point? The other thing is your commitment. How are you showing up? I'm still using the example. Are you showing up like you want to have a Michelin star restaurant, business, family, quality of life? And if you don't know what a Michelin star is, go look it up. It's a lot of criteria they have to have for that level to be in that restaurant. And then so you ask yourself, what is your commitment to that goal and that vision? I'm saying vision because you can break down your vision into goals, but a lot of us are so focused on these small goals and we still feel unfulfilled, or we're not hitting these goals because they're not aligned in the vision, or they're just like little things to do and they have nothing, they're incongruent with the bigger vision. And then completion. Pros complete things. And I was like, well, doesn't everyone, especially if you're a high level person, you complete things? A lot of us are not completing. There is something that I did, and I started off this project, and it was going great at one time, and then life happened in the middle, and I was like, okay, I don't need to do this. I can forget it. It's okay. Nobody really knows that I'm doing it. But I knew myself, and I had to keep that commitment to myself, and I had to complete it no matter how it looked. And I was like, you know what? I have to start telling myself I finish what I start. I complete what I start, no matter what it looks like. And sometimes when you are at a certain level in your life, career, you get to, you some people say, oh, it's okay, you've accomplished so much, it's okay if you didn't do that. But if you know that you're going to be a pro and you're going for a higher level, you cannot afford for people to say, oh, it's okay, rest a little bit, you did your best. No, you did not. Because pros, whatever you start, you must complete, no matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels. And I finished that project. I didn't get the results that I wanted, but you know what, I felt better that, after all that I did, I finished. And that was the biggest accomplishment for that I had for a while, because it was easier for me to quit. It was easy, and and I had every reason to quit. There were things happening where that was not a priority, but I finished it anyway. And I was like, you know what? This is the attitude. And I felt that in my body. And I was like, this is the attitude and the feeling that I need to have every single day as I'm going towards my higher goal. And remember, Instagram, you don't know, but YouTube, you all saw in the other videos where I said that one of the biggest visions that I have is to bankrupt 1 billion burial plots, where I'm helping, hopefully, a billion people live a life poured out above ground before they go underground. Yeah, it sounds a little bit morbid, but we all have these gifts and talents. And even if you've achieved so much and you still have breath in your body, you're probably still coasting along in life because you haven't tapped into that big, scary dream, because you're still focused on the how instead of what if. And if you start living in the what if, the how truly will come. All right. So when we're talking about separating your list, it is talking about how you're being optional and non-negotiable. You probably heard me say this. There are a lot of people in different industries that talk about being optional versus non-negotiable. But what does that really mean? And so when you have the optional, means that you have a choice. It's not required. It's not mandatory. I have a choice. I can either go work out or I don't. It's no big deal. If you are a tennis player and it's time for your morning workout, whatever, well, you're not trying to train for the Olympics. So if you miss a game or a session, or if you miss a workout, so what? It's not mandatory. It's not required. It's just for fun anyway. But if your vision is to go to the Olympics, or let's just say not even the Olympics, that's on my brain because that was just like a few weeks ago. But if you're going to the US Open or the French Open, you want to do that. Your workouts are not, they're not optional. I mean, they're not optional. They are mandatory. So you can't treat that, oh, it's okay if I miss this. Absolutely not, because then those are things that you're acting like an amateur. So this is why it's important for you to understand the two things so that you can look at the list and separate your daily activities. Another thing for non-negotiable means it's not open for discussion. So this is interesting. A lot of people, I was gonna say us, but I'm included. There are certain things in our lives where we are non-negotiable about. It could be the type of people you date or the person that you married before the type of people you dated before you got married. You were either not optional or not, you had non-negotiables. Job, a lot of people take certain jobs and they're like, this is an absolutely non-negotiable. When you're looking in your houses, when you're going to go buy property, things are non-negotiable. When you're buying a car, things are non-negotiable. But when it comes to our lives, it's like, or our goal, our big visions, like our huge visions, you're like, it's okay. So what, I didn't make that video. So what, I didn't write that post. So what, I didn't reach out to that client. It's okay. No, it's not. We have to start being non-negotiable about those things, because when you do that, it's like it's not required, and you show up differently. Like, I know if you went to go look for a house and you gave your realtor all of these things and they had some of your key things not on there, like I like separate showers and tubs. I just like them. And then if I went to a house and I didn't see that, it's like, and that's one of my non-negotiables. No matter how beautiful the house is, you would pass up on the house, right? And there are people that are like that. It's like, I don't care what this is. This is the thing that I did not want to budge on. And then you go look for other properties. But when it comes to your business, as well, you need to talk to 10 people today or 10 people every day to hit this income. Then the pros, they do that no matter what time. They don't clock out. I don't care if it's 11:59 at night. They're going to get that 10th person on the phone to talk to, where you're showing up as an amateur. And I've been an amateur in this place. So that's why I can talk about it. It's like, well, I did 7. It's okay. But it's not, because you said that you want to reach 10 and you need to show up and do what you need to do, whatever it takes to get that 10, and not settle for, oh, 7 is good. I did my best. So that's the difference, small little difference between amateur and pros. This is why you probably need a coach, consultant, or excuse me, or strategist in your life to help you call you out, because sometimes our circles, our families, or our friends, they can say, "Oh, it's okay," because they don't have the same vision as you do, or they may not be ready to tap into their bigger vision, and that's okay. So that's why you need to also separate your circles too. All right. And so you have the unwilling to compromise in certain areas. So here's another list as we wrap up, that I got this from a coach when I was working on a project, and she listed out a difference between amateur and pro. So I'm going to share that with you. So amateurs, they stay in their feelings. They stay in their feelings. We all have feelings and we all should work through them and process them. That's a great part of personal growth. Like I like to say now, personal leadership. But then pros focus on commitment. So if you are saying that you want to train for something, let's use health and wellness or working out, then you don't say, I don't feel like going to work out today. If you're a pro, you made that commitment to work out 3 or 5 times a week. You're going to do it no matter what. You're going to get up and do it. You don't focus on the feeling. You let the feeling pass, and then you rely on the commitment. Amateurs blame. They blame when things don't work out their way. Oh, it was, it was the people didn't pick up, they didn't return my call, or the internet didn't work. Whatever it is, there's a blame, whereas pros take responsibility. Sometimes you may think that you take responsibility on things, but you're probably not. I suggest you go look at some things. That's why I said put your big vision in your mind so that you can filter this out and find out where have you been blaming and where you could benefit. Well, where's more beneficial for you to take responsibility so you can show up like a professional or a pro. Amateurs hope, a lot of times, and I've been hoping, like, well, I hope this works out. I may do a little bit, but in the back of my mind, I show up like I hope. And I was like, oh, now that I've looked at this list, I'm like, that's being very amateurish. Got to cut that out. So pros plan. And, sometimes when you get to a certain level and you've been successful at a level, it is easy to wing it and just to let things go. And you'll be good. You might even be great at what you do. But if you're great at that and you're winging it, then you're cutting yourself short. You're cheating yourself, because now you're not planning to be the very best that you can be. You're not planning to be phenomenal, and then you're living below your brilliance. You're living below that standard because you know inside. So when you like, oh, I feel unfulfilled, or I just don't feel it because you're not showing up. You're just hoping and praying, and you're resting on your laurels. You're just resting on your previous success. So no matter at what level pros plan, I have been on calls and things with people who are making 100 million, who are generating $100 million a year in their business, and they still have these plans. They have detailed plans that they go through with either themselves or their teams. But some of us out here not even making nowhere near that, and we're like, well, I've been doing this. I'm good at this, and this is how I'm going to show it. I don't have to plan. Let's not fool ourselves. Also, amateurs are indecisive where pros are decisive. I found myself in certain things going back and forth, and I'm like, you're making low level decisions right here. Like, what are you doing? Pick something and go. You don't have time to dwell on this. Now, this doesn't mean to make irrational decisions or you just jump at it. You train yourself, especially when there's little things like what am I going to eat, what I'm going to wear. Get that stuff out of the way so that you can put your your more brain power on being decisive in the bigger decisions. So a lot of us are acting like amateurs when it's time to make decisions because we're looking at these small little decisions that aren't necessary. You need to put systems in place so things are taken care of. So when it's time for you for the big things, you can decide and decide quickly. And when I say decide quickly, it's like you've done all the things you need to do, just make the decision. And then amateurs focus on survival while pros focus on effort. And so you don't want to always be in some survival mode trying to do things. It's like, I did what I need to do and I'm going to keep moving forward. I put in the work that I need to do and I'm going to keep moving forward. Amateurs listen to everyone, and professionals, they just listen. So it's not always taking advice from everybody. Sometimes we can not trust ourselves and we're like, well, what does this person think? You may not always ask them, but if you find yourself trying to Google everything or go watch everybody's video or go sign up for everybody's stuff just to, get that means you're still trying to listen to everybody versus taking a step back, listening to what's on the inside, listening from God, listening from that internal guidance, and then move forward. This is not to say that you don't seek out help and support like a coach, consultant, or strategist, but you are number one. If you are a believer in Christ, Holy Spirit is number one. That's your go-to. And then you can filter through what all the other information that you are getting. Amateurs, they copy other people where professionals give credit and acknowledge, just like I did. Like the list that I'm reading from, that is not mine, but I'm giving you credit. Like I got this from a coach that I work with on a project, and then I am sharing it through my lens. So could I have easily found it? Yeah, but why waste it? I was like, I liked her work, and I'm telling you, versus passing this off on my own. Now there are things where it may sound like somebody else, but it's really your own creative brain. That's different. But to constantly take somebody's things and just use it as is and not give people credit, that's low level, and that's being an amateur. And then amateurs wait for inspiration, whereas professionals, um, they're passionate. They're always passionate. They don't wait. This is my drive. This is why you have to have the bigger vision in your mind, because like I said earlier, sometimes your feelings aren't gonna the feelings are gonna feel and they are tricky and they can knock you off, but you let them pass because feelings are important, but you focus on commitment. So this is similar. You don't just sit around and wait for things to inspire you and wait for things to come to you. You make things happen. It's like, well, I know that I want to go in this direction, then I'm still going to move forward no matter what, because I'm passionate about my project. I'm passionate about what I'm going to do for others. I'm passionate about my business, because if you don't have that bigger vision, then you're like, well, I'm just going to wait until, I get a divine sign from heaven for me to write this book. Well, if part of your bigger vision is to have more impact and influence and income, helping, I don't know, uh, solo parents, like single parents, but I heard the term solo. I was like, I like that. Solo parents, then write the book. You don't have to wait for a parent or someone who's struggling or a story to come on TV to say, oh, I was so inspired by this movie that I watched to write this book. If it's aligned with your bigger vision and you can see how it could help support your bigger vision, your passion kicks you in the butt and gets you to work. And then the last one, amateurs dwell or sit in their situation when things don't work out right, but professionals problem solve. So sometimes you can do this on your own, because I do believe that you can coach yourself to a certain limit. but then you seek outside support so that you can problem solve together. So if you're sitting in something and things are just not working and you really have problem solve, you really try to work things out, then it's time to invest in support versus I'm just gonna sit in it. It's the way it is. Oh well, it didn't work out. It must not be meant for me. When you say some things like that, that means you're not really aligned with your vision. You don't have that big vision in your mind. All right. So as I wrap up, and we've talked about September is being significant, and this is how to separate your list. Your self work today, and if you're not going to do any self work, don't listen to me. Turn me off because this is all built. The series builds on itself, and I'm giving you key data points for you to track in your life so that you can have something tangible to focus on. So if you're not gonna do it, then log off. Don't come back. I know it sounds mean, but we have a lot of information that's out there, and too many people are getting too much information instead of implementing. So what I want for you to do is make a list. You're gonna make a list, put your big vision. I don't care if you don't know how it's gonna do it. Whatever that thing is that will not go away, that's been lingering in your mind for the past 5, 10, or probably 15 years. Put that at the top of your paper. And guess what? Nobody's gonna see it. You don't have to turn it in, but you trust yourself to do the work. So put it at the top of the paper and then write out some things that you that it would just write out some things that, oh, this, if I was to do this, then I would have to show up like this. And then focus on the side that you've been acting like an amateur versus the side you've been showing up like a pro, right? And you can Google amateur versus pro. The one that I Googled, amateur versus pro, where I came up with the attitude, focus, preparation, commitment, and completion. Start there. I got my big vision in my mind, not a goal, but your big vision. World hunger, or hunger in my community, or the United States, wherever it is. This is the what I want to do. This is the problem I want to solve. This is my big vision. This is where I want to leave my stamp on the planet. Okay. Then amateur versus pro. Attitude, what type of attitude does this person have? What type of attitude do I have now? What type of focus does this person have? What type of focus am I doing now? Same thing with preparation, commitment, and completion. Start there. Start small. And then if you want to go back into the other things that I listed on that list, then you can come back and watch the replay. All right. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. If you still want to take a deeper dive, I am hosting a series of workshops after this. The first one is on September 10th. But I invite you to go and watch the pre-recording of my 3-hour virtual event, From Resume to Reinvention to Remarkable: How to Shift from an Employee Mindset to an Entrepreneur Way of Thinking with Ease. If you watch the pre-recording and sign up for that, there will be an option for you to upgrade to VIP or next level attendee, and then you'll get some information from there. The people who decide to go that route, then you will have an opportunity to come to one of, I think, 6 more workshops with me when you upgrade. If you're like, you know what, V, I don't want to hear any other experts, because I have about 19 of them that you can listen to over the next few days. It's pre-recorded. And I mean, it's already recorded. Well, it's pre-recorded. It's recorded. So you're essentially watching the replays. If you're like, I don't want to do any of that, I just want to register for the workshop, that link is down below. You just won't get the special discount because you don't want to put in that much effort. You just want to skip the line. So, you pay for upgrade for faster, even more. All right. So make sure you check the information down below, and I will see you for our next one. Our next topic will be um, about secure your time, how to personalize your productivity, and we're going to have fun with that. So I will see you all on the other side. Bye, Instagram. For YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And subscribe if you like this vibe, and then also share. And I will see you all on the other side.